Look, I'm not saying I told them so, but I absolutely told them so. My name is Kralvex, and I hold, well, used to hold, a respectable position within the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps. Nothing too fancy, mind you. Just high enough to witness the spectacular disaster that was our first official contact with humans. When our scout ships discovered Earth, the Council practically salivated. A resource-rich world with a space-capable species that hadn't yet mastered faster-than-light travel? Or so we thought. The Council voted unanimously to extend an invitation for peaceful talks. I remember putting air quotes around that phrase in my personal logs. Their primitives with fusion drives and projectile weapons, sneered High Ambassador Pelnarix during the pre-contact briefing. His facial tentacles curled with disdain, always a bad sign. We'll send a modest diplomatic fleet. No need to overwhelm the poor creatures on their first exposure to galactic society. By modest, he meant 12 warships and the Council's third-largest diplomatic vessel. Subtle as a supernova. Then the humans responded. One ship. Just one. The smallest diplomatic vessel I'd ever seen. The Council chambers erupted in laughter when the scans came in. Are they mocking us? Demanded Pelnarix. Or simply stupid? When Captain Eleanor Blackwood stepped off that tiny ship, the laughter died. She stood tall, taller than expected for her species, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of our delegation. Her black uniform bore minimal decoration, just a small golden insignia on her collar. The United Earth appreciates the Council's invitation, she said with a smile that never reached those calculating eyes. We look forward to productive discussions. Those productive discussions lasted exactly 6 hours. Pelnarix, that pompous bag of tentacles, spent the first 2 hours explaining how fortunate humans were to be discovered by such a benevolent organization as the Galactic Council. Of course, he said with that slimy diplomatic tone, membership requires certain contributions. Earth possesses abundant resources our members could utilize. Consider it a mutually beneficial arrangement. Protection fees, if you will. Captain Blackwood's expression never changed. She simply closed her data tablet, stood up, and straightened her uniform. High Ambassador, my government instructed me to extend every courtesy and explore genuine partnership opportunities. What you're proposing is extortion, not diplomacy. Pelnarix's tentacles went rigid. You dare, we dare quite a lot, actually, Blackwood interrupted. This meeting is concluded. You've made your intentions clear, as have we. As she turned to leave, Pelnarix shouted that rejection would have consequences. Blackwood paused at the door. So will underestimating humanity, Ambassador. For your sake, I hope you don't discover just how severe those consequences might be. As I watched her walk away, a chill ran down my spinal ridge. Something told me we'd made a terrible mistake. And that was only the beginning, #only one ship? Part 2, the Council's miscalculation. The Council's reaction to Captain Blackwood's departure was predictably ridiculous. They actually applauded themselves. Pelnarix strutted around the chamber like he'd single-handedly conquered a galaxy. Did you see how quickly they retreated? One firm stance and they scurried away in their tiny vessel. His tentacles wiggled with delight. Typical behavior from an immature species. Only Jax Morden, our chief military advisor, seemed troubled. His scaled brow furrowed as he reviewed the footage of the human ship's departure. Their engine signature doesn't match our initial scans, he muttered, his reptilian tongue flicking anxiously. And Captain Blackwood's final statement concerns me. We should proceed with caution. Pelnarix waved a dismissive tentacle. The military always sees threats where none exist. These humans barely have orbital capabilities. Send them our ultimatum, 30 standard cycles to agree to our terms or face disciplinary action. While the Council drafted their demands, I decided to do some research. What I found in our database about Earth's history turned my stomachs. These primitive humans had fought 3 global wars without destroying themselves. Their technological advancement curve was nearly vertical, moving from atmospheric flight to moon landing in less than 70 years. Their entertainment was equally disturbing, thousands of stories about aliens invading Earth and being obliterated by human ingenuity. It's like they'd been mentally preparing for us for centuries. When I presented my findings to the Council, Pelnarix accused me of species sympathy, a serious charge in our bureaucracy. Clearly, Kralvex has been influenced by human propaganda, he announced. I move for immediate demotion and reassignment. And just like that, I went from mid-level diplomat to monitoring station technician, watching helplessly as the Council assembled their celebratory conquest fleet. 17 capital ships, 30 destroyers, and countless fighters, all to subjugate a primitive world that supposedly had only one diplomatic vessel. On the 30th day after our ultimatum, with no response from Earth, the fleet prepared for departure. Pelnarix himself boarded the flagship, eager to witness humanity's surrender. That's when my monitoring station started picking up anomalous readings at the edge of our system. Faint energy signatures, dispersed in a perfect sphere around our space. At first, I thought my equipment was malfunctioning. Then the signatures multiplied. And strengthened. Control, this is monitoring station 7, I reported, my voice shaking. We have hundreds of spatial distortions forming around the system perimeter. Control didn't respond. They were too busy celebrating the imminent conquest of Earth. But I knew. Somehow, I knew what was coming. The humans had arrived. And they'd brought more than one ship, #only one ship? Part 3, the human response. I'll never forget the moment those spatial distortions stabilized into jump points. One moment my monitoring screens showed anomalous readings, the next they were flooded with thousands, yes, thousands, of human warships. They appeared simultaneously at perfectly calculated positions, forming an impenetrable sphere around our entire system. The comms exploded with panicked reports. Control. Unidentified vessels at Sector 7. Multiple capital-class ships detected in Quadrant 3. We're surrounded. How did they get past our early warning system? I couldn't help but laugh. A bitter, terrified laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. During my demotion hearing just 2 weeks earlier, I'd specifically warned about this possibility. Humans exhibit a pattern of technological leapfrogging, I'd testified. Their history suggests they often conceal capabilities until strategically advantageous to reveal them. Pelnarix had sneered. Next you'll tell us they have faster-than-light capabilities we somehow missed. Exactly what they had, as it turned out. The council chambers descended into chaos as the tactical displays showed the full scale of the human armada. Each of their ships was twice the size of our largest vessels, bristling with weapons our sensors couldn't even identify. Open communications immediately, ordered First Counselor Traz. Offer diplomatic solutions. For 3 excruciating hours, every hail went unanswered. The humans simply held position, silent and imposing. Pelnarix, that absolute fool, pounded his command console. We cannot show weakness. Launch fighters. Show these upstarts the might of the Galactic Council. Before anyone could follow his suicidal order, every communication array in our system simultaneously went offline. Not destroyed, just perfectly disabled with surgical precision strikes we never even detected coming. All except one channel, my humble monitoring station. My console lit up with an incoming transmission. When I answered, a familiar face appeared on screen. This is Captain Eleanor Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force. I see you've been demoted, Diplomatic Officer Kralvex. A shame. You were the only one who took us seriously. I swallowed hard. How do you know my name? She smiled. That same smile that never reached her eyes. We know many things. Please inform your council leaders that I'm returning to continue our discussion. This time, I believe they'll find our terms more compelling. They'll never agree to meet, I said. Pelnarix will demand resistance. Pelnarix, she replied, is welcome to try. But I suspect wiser heads will prevail when they see what one human ship can actually do. Behind her, through the view screen, I watched a single human vessel detach from the fleet and begin its approach to the Council station. It was the same, tiny diplomatic vessel, as before. Except now, we could see what it truly was. A planet killer, #only one ship? Part 4, Humanity's Terms. Diplomatic Officer Kralvex, your presence is requested in Meeting Chamber 1, announced the Council messenger, practically throwing my new credentials at me. Funny how quickly a demotion becomes a promotion when you're the only one who can communicate with the species currently holding energy weapons to your civilization's head. The Council chamber was unrecognizable. Gone were the pompous decorations and self-congratulatory monuments. Now it was a stark meeting room with the remaining Council members seated on one side, looking utterly defeated. Captain Blackwood and her team sat opposite, calm and collected. First Counselor Traz gestured for me to sit beside him. Officer Kralvex will be our primary representative in these negotiations. Blackwood nodded approvingly. A wise choice. Perhaps the only wise one you've made regarding humanity. She activated a holographic display showing hundreds of human outposts throughout Council space, outposts we'd never detected. Earth has been aware of the Galactic Council for 73 years, she explained. We've monitored your expansion, your treatment of other species, your internal politics. When your scout ships discovered us, we decided to test your intentions. The single ship, I realized aloud. It was a test. Which you failed spectacularly, confirmed Blackwood. Humanity has possessed faster-than-light travel for over 2 centuries. Our stealth technology is generations beyond your detection capabilities. First Counselor Traz blanched. What are your terms? The terms were non-negotiable. Human observers would be stationed throughout Council space. Trade would commence, but under human oversight. Military capabilities would be limited, and any aggression toward developing species would trigger immediate human intervention. When Pelnarix burst into the chamber with armed guards, attempting to sabotage the agreement, human security personnel neutralized them so quickly I barely saw them move. Pelnarix will face justice under your laws, Blackwood stated. And Officer Kralvex will serve as permanent liaison between humanity and the Council. 3 days later, after the treaties were signed and the human fleet had reduced its presence to a mere 100 ships, Blackwood invited me to her vessel. Terran whiskey, she said, pouring 2 glasses in her surprisingly comfortable quarters. A tradition when establishing new relationships. I took a cautious sip, feeling the strange liquid burn pleasantly. Why me? I asked. You tried to understand us before judging. Rare quality in diplomacy. She raised her glass. To a peaceful future between our peoples. Do you think that's possible? After how this began? Blackwood's expression softened, showing the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. Humans have a saying, Kralvex. We value peace so highly that we'll prepare for war to maintain it. Your council mistook preparation for weakness. I don't think you'll make that mistake again. Looking at her ship schematics displayed on the wall, the planet killer disguised as a diplomatic vessel, I knew with absolute certainty that no one in the galaxy would make that mistake ever again.